very rarely to get a crash like the Great Depression again because we learn from our mistakes, right?
Sure, but right now the only reason we haven't hit a Great Depression is because we just keep pumping money into the system hoping it won't explode. It will. The bubble's going to burst eventually. Like, we've infused a lot of money. The bubble will eventually pop. But like, the Great Depression was like directly a result of capitalist policies. Like, it was financial markets. It was massive wealth inequality, so that the poor, when it did hit, the poor didn't have any sort of cushion whatsoever because of that wealth disparity. So this is what my whole thing is. If we're talking about systems and I'm saying, hey, what's a good reason to be capitalist? And you say, well, because under a socialist system, there's no toilet paper. Well, under capitalist systems, sometimes there's no toilet paper, right? I mean, COVID, there was no fucking toilet paper. That wasn't a planned economy, and we certainly weren't able to meet supply there, right?
I mean, come on, dude, that was like a global pandemic, right? I feel like that's not real. Like,
yeah, but wait, but what I'm saying is, when you look at confounding factors, the USSR's planned economy didn't exist in a vacuum. It existed in the context of everything globally that was happening in the world, which was they were at war multiple times. They were consistently under threat of U.S. Intervention. They had sanctions and embargoes placed on them all the time. They had enemies all over. They were dealing with the fucking Hitler threat before we were, right? In my opinion, any criticism that seems to be held of a socialist economy tends to think that socialism exists in a vacuum. And I don't think that's an accurate way to look at socialism.
But actually, like, that's one of the reasons why the USSR collapsed, though, right? Like for one, because they're a planned economy, their enemies could easily like fuck with it, right? Like when Reagan did that shit with the Saudis to like basically bankrupt their oil. It's big. Like, I feel like that's
so
like
then
a
it didn't
weakness
it
of
didn't
if
collapse
anything.
because so what you're telling me is it didn't collapse because of a planned economy. It collapsed because there were people that wanted it to collapse, and they intervened and put through the mechanisms in which it would collapse. I wouldn't blame the system because there were enemies of the system that didn't want it to exist anymore.